Hey y'all, and welcome to Stivers Uncensored. Today's a big one.
I'm Jen.
Oh, did we do that on this channel?
I don't know. I feel like we should.
I'm Zach. That's Jen. So we gave you a warning at the beginning of this video, but we really mean it this time. Like, make sure no children are around for this video. And this is an adult-only conversation, and the word sex is going to be said many times in this. So sex. Like, let's get it out of the way. Let's not make it awkward. It's something that we're going to be talking about. I would say out of everything that's been reached out to us, this has been one of the biggest topics.
Yes.
And we had planned on doing a video like this. Just maybe not yet. Yeah, not yet. But it definitely seems like what people want to talk about.
Yeah. Just so we're clear, anyone that has reached out, we're not going to dive into specifics. Everything is anonymous. Obviously, we would not do that to anyone. And for the sake of us sitting in front of a computer and writing books and emails and responding to a lot of people, we're just going to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and do it right here. So please, for the love of God, if this is not something you want to hear, don't continue to watch.
Yeah, like if moms or dads are watching, it might not be the greatest video. You can just skip on by this and catch the next one, or go over to Stivers Homestead and watch. So yeah, I think we've given you all the caution that you need. If you continue from here on out, that is your choice. And we're glad that you're staying. You might get a little uncomfortable, but that might be a good thing. That's kind of the purpose of this, is to really make what might seem uncomfortable comfortable. Yes. Because sex needs to be comfortable within the marriage. Yep. And that's what we're about to do here. Not really. Using words. Okay. So, marriage, sex, and what that means to us, and the importance of it. So, before we get into some of those details, we do want to address the biggest question that was brought up. By the way, shout out to the emoji person that did this. I did not know what you meant. She caught on. I was like, oh, I see what she did there. Porn. Let's talk about porn and porn in a marriage. There are different ways that this go about. There's different ways that it's involved within marriage. Porn also kind of goes with masturbation and different other concepts that some marriages don't like, some do like, some share together.
It's either embraced or it's taboo.
Exactly. So one of the biggest questions that we got is what are our thoughts on porn in a marriage?
Because most of these questions have come from somebody is comfortable with it in the marriage, the other person's not. Right. How do we bridge the gap? Or is it wrong? Am I wrong in thinking this? Am I wrong in thinking that it's bad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me start off with saying that I've never had an issue with wanting to watch just massive amounts of porn. That's not been something that's been involved with me. I've just never had that need or want. But a lot of that is because I am very sexually satisfied within our marriage. We get along great. Things work great. So I don't have a craving to want more, if that makes sense. And I'm strictly just talking on my own opinion. I don't know if your spouse feels this way or not. But it could be helpful information for you to take back. However, the thought of porn is exciting. So we have sometimes, and it is definitely not on a regular basis, enjoyed it together. And some of those more hotter moments, those moments that you want to spice things up a little bit, you can call it whatever you want to. But within a sex life of marriage, there is times when both spouses want to just do something a little different. We don't want to be vanilla all the time, right?
I'm uncomfortable. I'm sorry.
It's funny because, she's really...
I'm just not as open as... Well, I am with him, but not with people that I don't know.
Right. So it's a little bit of a shake to do it with a bunch of... Who knows watching, right? We have no idea who's watching. And sometimes you think about close people that might be in your actual life that's watching, which is why we gave so many warnings. Like, if you're still here and you're uncomfortable, go away. Like, go do something else. But, I'm not uncomfortable. I don't care. I don't care what their views of me are or us or anything like that. And I know she technically doesn't either. However, she just doesn't want to be uncomfortable if we ran into somebody like, hey, I caught that sex video, just a kind of a mental thing. But back to what we were saying. It's kind of like role playing, right? It's kind of like doing different stuff within your sex life to keep it spicy. That way, it doesn't just become boring. I hate to even say that, but it can be if you're just doing the same repetitive thing.
That doesn't mean it's bad.
Right.
All these words that we use sound bad, but it's only taken by opinion.
Right.
If you're okay with having a normal vanilla sex life with your spouse, then great, continue. We're just, a lot of people have reached out and said that they aren't, and they're looking to change something or looking for advice.
Yeah, exactly. So, and when we say this, it isn't like things are just absolutely crazy over here, but it's the stuff that we've tried out, and some things we like and some things we haven't. But it's important to be open-minded in these situations. So for a lot of the questions strictly about porn, first off, my opinion would be, let's don't immediately see this as a negative. Like, let's don't immediately think that somebody has a problem.
Or judge.
Because they may just be testing the waters out and like seeing what maybe you would think. And honestly, if they got caught, they might have wanted to get caught. They might have wanted to see what your reaction may be to this situation. I know that kind of seems far-fetched, like, that's crazy. I know it because, I've felt that too. And part of that's exciting as well, just to see what your wife's reaction would be if she caught you with that. You hope it goes well, but you're really nervous. You don't know what would happen because it is such a taboo thing that people look down upon. And you can have your opinions about it, whatever you want. But all I'm getting at is when you're in your internal marriage and it's just you two, don't immediately think something's bad right out the gate.
Yeah. And you also, like, if your spouse is approaching you with that, you have no idea how much courage or how much time it might have taken them to work up to ask you that. So just don't judge. Just be gentle and keep an open mind.
Right, because it completely it could shut them down and put up a wall that you all might not ever be able to break down again. Because if they came with that much courage to you and you just said, well, you have a problem or you're an addict or something like that, that might have just ruined any openness that could be there for a long time.
Yeah.
So again, these are just our opinions. And you might think it's immoral or not biblical or something on the lines of that if you're strictly following the Bible. But my only argument with you would be whatever is happening between a married couple, a spouse and a spouse, that's biblical, no matter which way you want to look at it. So whatever they're doing inside of that marriage, if both are comfortable with it, then to me, like, you're following the lines. You're following the lines as closely as you can, because goodness knows, if you think that's bad, then probably everything else you're doing in your life is against sin as well. So
you said a good key point there. If both are comfortable.
Yes.
If one is uncomfortable, it can quickly become immoral.
Right. But it's that fine line too, right? Like, are you uncomfortable because it's scary and new? Or are you uncomfortable because you truly don't believe in it? That's where you need to decide on if this is something that you want to, approach or not. Yeah. It also depends on your all's personalities too. Like, when we got married and we were dating, like, we both knew that we were more risk takers. We knew we were both open-minded. We knew just in life in general, not just in the bedroom, that things are going to be a little bit more spontaneous, I guess is what I'm saying. We knew that's who it was going to be. Maybe your marriage isn't like that, or your spouses aren't like that. So this isn't something that's completely off the table for you. But it's open conversations. When it really boils down to it, don't look at it immediately as a problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem, but that should not be your knee-jerk reaction to say, whoa, you're an addict. I hate the word porn addict, sex addict, different terms that we're using to try to make it a problem. Because it's usually just higher sex drives, or they're missing something and wanting attention. It's so easy, and I feel bad even just comparing this to just men, but it does seem like men get labeled this a lot.
That's true.
Well, actually, it's an unfair thing. Men get labeled as sex addicts and porn addicts. Women get labeled as whores and sluts and stuff like that. So it's really unfair.
We also get labeled as prudes.
Yeah, so it's very wrong on both sides. But we need to stop doing that, especially with our spouses. If you're doing it outside of that, who cares? We're not worried about them. But you should not be looking at your spouse in those derogatory terms.
Yes.
Right.
So now that we got that out of the way.
You good?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm okay. I don't think I'm blushing anymore. Let's just quickly talk about some pros and cons. Pros that you might see from a spouse that wants to invite it into the marriage, and cons you may see from a spouse that does not want to. Okay, so a pro could be, say one spouse wants to introduce it and the other spouse is not. A pro could be that it unlocks a whole new world. If you are in a safe and secure marriage, to the point where you're having this conversation, someone's approached the other one and said, have you ever thought about this? Or is this something you've ever done? Or is this something that you're open to? If you do that together in a safe and comfortable environment, and it can truly it can spark something and it can make something better. It could open a door to other things. It could just be the gateway to being more open and honest with each other. Maybe it's not even a further step that you take. Right. We're not saying do that, every time you have marital relations with each other, but maybe it just opens that door for you to be more open and honest. And you think, okay, well, didn't ever think that that was possible, that we could, have a conversation about that, carry through with the act. And now here we are feeling like we can tell each other anything.
Yeah.
And we can, talk about next steps that we might want to try or new things that we've never done before. So that's a definite pro.
Yeah. And then I would say the first initial con that I would think is if you are in a insecure marriage or relationship, and it's
there's a lot of jealousy, maybe
we're not on a real rock solid ground right now, there's insecurities that are happening, but you're wanting to try it. A con could be this could open the negative door to where one of the spouses you start disconnecting even more, and then maybe they're thinking about other parties, women, men, other relationships. Do I really want what I have? I mean, that is a scare when you do bring some of this more, I guess, wilder things into your marital relations, sex.
Sorry.
And so that is something to really talk about. Like, you both need to feel very confident in doing it before doing it. It shouldn't just be something that just happens, because it could be a cause for disaster.
And it needs to be a continuous conversation too, not just one time. Because say, maybe you were like a little honest about it and you're like, yeah, I liked it, it was great. And then your spouse is going to think, great, we can do this again. But you weren't being honest, then that's going to cause a whole downward spiral that nobody's ready for.
Or it starts happening too much, right? Instead of it becoming a every once in a while thing that's just fun, it's becoming every time that you try to have sex. Like, it's like porn getting on the TV. It's like, okay, we need to talk about it like that. This is fun, but I don't want it to become everything. I don't want that to be every time we do this. Because, sometimes that's creating more of a disconnect within each other. So it is open and honest, and just making sure that you're both hearing each other when anything's being brought into the bedroom.
Yeah. So obviously we've addressed doing that together. We need to address the fact now of doing that separate and how that can cause issues.
So like you said, that is us talking about doing it together. But it's also like when you have found out that maybe your spouse is doing it alone.
Yes.
So like, that's obviously an interest. So maybe that's how you can bridge a gap to where, okay, I'm compromising. Maybe you stop doing it by yourself. And so that's where we want to like transfer this into, is talking about watching porn individually.
Yeah.
I don't think that should necessarily be happening. I don't think it should be something that is happening often. I'm not going to say that like never, that if they did it one time.
That's drawing hard lines, and we're not doing that here.
Exactly. We're not drawing hard lines because we're not doing that. But it should not be like their common habit. Right. It shouldn't be every morning, they're watching. You
shouldn't not be able to have sex with your spouse because you've been watching too much porn.
Yes, exactly. Because there's no connection emotionally together. Yeah. Get creative again. Like this one, I'm not going to get into too much detail to, but if they like watching porn a lot, what can you do that maybe gives them something to watch?
If you're comfortable.
If you're catching on what I'm saying. Again, this is just ideas. It's stuff that might be like, whoa, I'll never do that. But it's options. It just depends on how hard you want to work for this and how much you want to try. Even if it makes you really uncomfortable to start, it might be something that grows. Completely up to you. It's just thoughts that come across my head when I'm thinking of that. Like, you don't want to watch? Give them something to watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's an option. But I definitely don't think, if that is happening just on a regular basis, we got a deeper problem. We got a deeper marital problem that is causing that to happen. We're disconnected. We're not connected emotionally, sexually, and physically in any form. So that's probably some kind of the basis of why it's happening. But I wouldn't say, hey, just stop doing that. Let's deep dive.
Give ultimatums.
Yeah, let's deep dive and try to figure out why it's happening. And I can tell you as a guy, like, if she sent me to a therapist like that, that's never going to work. You know what I mean?
Shut down completely.
The only way that would be resolved would be between her and I. Yeah. So that would be my opinion there.
Yeah. And I feel the need to say this throughout every video we do, like 1,000 times, but especially this one. We're not speaking to like marriages that are completely broken and there is like no chance of coming back. So you've been hurt and burned so bad. There's no trust left. There's no love. There's no intimacy. We're not speaking to that. We're speaking to the ones that have been in a similar position that we have in dry spells of our marriage, that have just been looking for a way to make things better or spice things up or, feel like we're dating again and bring back that love. And so I always feel the need to say that, because if it's something you're uncomfortable with or that has given you trauma in the past, please don't listen to a word we're saying.
Right.
This is for people who are looking into exploring these kinds of things.
Two people that are still love and they're still trying. That's who we're talking to. That directly, we're also talking to the people that maybe they haven't got there to this yet, but you know what? It might be coming, so you are to be aware.
Yeah.
And the third group that are secretly and quietly don't know this is happening yet.
Yes.
So those are the ones too that you might be sitting there beside your spouse and he might be getting a little sweaty over there, but you're like, you don't do that, do you? Don't do that either. No. Don't assume. Because if she did that and I was there, no, hell no, oh, no. So that's a lot of things, because we just think that we know each other so much that we make these assumptions that hey, that didn't happen in here, but it might, So that's just safe zones, making sure it's comfortable to talk about, bring it up. Maybe I'm not gonna lie. Can I tell them how this even got involved in our relationship?
I don't remember.
Mexico.
Okay.
I mean, I'm safe keeping it clean. It's not something that we had ever introduced, but last New Year's Eve, not this previous one, but for coming into 2023, we were in Mexico and we went to an all-inclusive resort, and it was just porn on TV. It was
adults only.
Yeah, it was an adult-only place, and it was our first time ever being in Mexico, and it was just on the TV, and her and I kind of laughed about it at first, well, we know the mood they want you to get in here. And then that, it just seemed to be on the TV. We were never around.
And it was just a joke. We joked about it, and then it opened a conversation. It opened a door for a conversation for us to have. What do you think?
Yeah. And we were both
it was a judgment-free zone because we were in Mexico.
Yeah, it's nice. Seriously, if you want to just have a judgment-free zone and get real romantic with yourself, Mexico. Yeah. It's a great place to go. But yeah, I mean, that's how it got brought up. That's how it happened. And then so it's just a periodic thing that's kind of fun to do every once in a while. But it was because of this event that happened. So getting back to originally what I was saying is, don't assume your spouse is not doing these things or is doing it without having deep and good conversations with them.
Yes.
That's the most important thing to remember within this conversation. Yeah. Have we addressed the porn?
Yes.
I think we have.
If you have further questions, please reach out. It's hard to do everything and answer all the things, but I mean, we covered it.
I think so. But yeah, if you have any follow-ups or if you give a shot, talking to your spouse. If you have that and it sparks further questions, feel free to ask us. We're happy to give our feedback and thoughts that we have. But we now would like to move into just talking about why is sex important in a marriage and our thoughts about it. Because not all about porn. We do want to talk just about sex in general and kind of why that's important for the marriage.
Yeah. It's always been important for us. Like he said, we've just, from the moment that we got together, it was a very important thing. We both had a higher drive, a need to. We just felt the passion between each other and not something that we ever wanted to let go. However, we have been married for 11 years and there have been dry spells. There's been times when we were upset with each other and, it's terrible. It's an awful thing. And I know it comes from both sides, but I can speak from my perspective. Being a woman, I know that sometimes you may withhold that if you are upset. Sometimes it's not intentional. If you're not feeling close with your spouse or connected, then it's just not something that's really on the table, right? You're not even looking at that as an option. So that has happened before. And then there's been other times when we were angry, but still needed that connection. And, sometimes that brought us out of the hole that we were in or the funk that we were in.
Yeah.
But it is very important, in our opinion. Intimacy can be so many things, and sex is just one of those parts of being intimate. But to us, it's the highest part of being intimate together, besides just, your pure love of sharing your everyday life together. But if you don't have it, I'm just not sure where the connection lies, because I know we've been in that point and it was the most unconnected we've ever been. Yeah.
And kind of the way I look at it, if sex is not happening within a marriage, you basically friend zoned your spouse. Yeah. You're just friends. The intimacy connection isn't existing. And so when I think of a spouse, obviously you want to marry or be with your best friend, right? Somebody that you can spend.
The bottom line. Yeah. You want to be with your best friend.
However, in a marriage, I want more than just my best friend. I want, I actually was telling her last night, I was it's almost like we're a next level of connection because I don't want this to sound weird because blood is not, that's uncomfortable and not right. but it does feel like we like share more than we've met each other and we're just best friends.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with the intimacy part.
Yeah.
I mean, we feel like, y'all, I'm not, we don't finish each other's sentences. We are thinking the same thing in two different rooms, and I walk into the room singing the same song or saying the same thing. And that's where I feel like sex is an important piece, because when you truly feel like a puzzle piece, it's the intimacy.
Yeah.
It's not about it. And we can have as many late night conversations we want. We can connect on all the levels verbally, but if we're not doing it sexually, we're missing a key component in the puzzle.
And I'm going to say this vaguely, but hopefully if you just think about it for a second, you'll know what it means. We've had 2 kids together, so we have shared DNA, like quite literally, and we do. Right. So that is like us becoming more and more connected. Like he is a part of me and I am a part of him because of our sex life, our marriage, our intimacy, all of that. We are always one because we're connected in that way.
Yeah, and I think the more it happens, the tighter it is. And you can feel it. It's almost like a superpower. The more it's happening, the more you're like just so zoned in together. And the less it's happening, like you can start feeling that fade. You can start feeling disconnects. Conversations don't go as well. You misinterpret and misread their nonverbals. You think, like right now, it's like, bam, got everything. And I know everything. I know what's on her mind. I know when it's bothering her. But then once that kind of gets away, then arguments happen because you're like thinking something's this way. It's really happening that way. And to me, it is strictly 100% because we're in a dry spell.
Yeah. It's like texting. It's the worst form of communication.
Right.
Because you're assuming what the other person is saying is something totally different and you're taking it the wrong way because the communication and the intimacy is not strong.
Yep. So I think it's pretty clear. We find it very important. I know right now somebody's thinking in their head, so what do we think is a normal amount? I didn't think it's going to be that. I think it's just a general question.
I'm going to revert that one back to him.
Plead the fifth?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a very easy answer for that. It's going to be different for every marriage because everybody's sex drive is a little bit different. So what I'm telling you is the normal amount is once you figure out your spouse's sex drive. And you have those conversations and you figure out like, how many times can you? Like, daily, multiple times a day, every other day, twice a week, once a week. Our age has everything to do with it. Our physical fitness has everything to do with it. All these things go into play. So there's no like 2 to 3 times a week, 1 time a week. You're not going to get an answer like that. It's whatever the relationship needs and can handle. I'll be completely honest. Mine's really high right now. Like I'm a 34-year-old male. I'm in good, decent shape, I would say, for the best part. And it's just, mine's high. And we've had open conversations about that. And we've also had open conversations knowing that that's going to change. Like, I'm going to get older. And as we all know, like, I'm on like that downhill or right there at the end for like the man's drive, right? Because I think it like starts at like, does it?
Yeah, like 50, I think.
Oh. Well, all I know is we're first, y'all are latter. So, like, when I'm starting to die out, yours is going to pick up. But it's stuff that you have to continue to talk about and have those conversations with them because it's probably more than you think, if I had to say. And I can guarantee you, your men are probably almost scared to give you an honest answer because you're going to think they're an addict or something like that, when it's really not true. It's just the world has made it seem like this small amount of sex is the right amount. Yeah. And I guarantee you, your guys think differently.
Not even that. The world's made it like we're not supposed to talk about it. Like it's just taboo.
Well, it's like talking about
it's nobody's business. Like you're probably thinking, well, hopefully you're not because you're here on your own will watching this. But most people would think like, well, that's their business. Why do I need to know that? Well, it's something that needs to be talked about so that it's normal. These things should not be taboo. Right. And the reason I laugh when he asks me this stuff is not because he's making me feel uncomfortable. Like we know all this stuff about each other. I just want to be clear about that. It's just sharing it with other people is awkward for me. But yeah, I mean, there's ups and downs. It's an ebb and flow of, whose sex drive may be higher or lower at some time. But it's something that we continue to talk about constantly, And when I know that he's at a very high, which is most of the time, I'm aware of that. And I don't feel this obligation to meet that by any means. However, I love him with every part of my soul. and I want him to be happy and satisfied. And I don't look at it as a chore or a job and if that's something, if that's like the way that, your perspective is, there's much deeper issues that need to be changed and much more communication that needs to happen. And it doesn't have to be that way. That's not normal. I think that might be what is talked about the most, but that doesn't mean that it's normal.
Yeah. It should not be tit for tat. Like, we should not be, well, if I'm going to do this for you, you got to do it for me.
Yeah.
Like, that is like the worst thing that could ever happen. Is like, well, if this is going to happen here, it's got to happen here. I hate schedules. I hate when we're planning this stuff out, or if it's, well, if you got that, then I got to get this. Like, be in the heat of the moment. Like, just want to do for your spouse. I would say we're both very unselfish. Is that what you said? Not selfish.
Not selfish.
Not selfish when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. We're very much more about each other.
Yeah.
And I think that is a huge piece that marriages miss. It's a lot about themselves instead of the other or together.
Yeah.
So that's something that maybe we can start changing. Like, if your husband or spouse is asking for something, or you can tell that they want it, like, maybe give it. Like, give that to them instead of saying, well, I don't want it. Well, you might not right now,
right?
But they do. And then you're going to see this wild thing happen is, like, once that happens, then, okay, maybe I do want to know, it's like, then it's going to get you kind of in the mood as well. So, like, just quit saying no all the time. Yeah. You're in a married relationship. As long as everybody still agrees.
Yes. Disclaimer number 557, this is not for abusive relationships.
Yes, exactly.
That have had any kind of trauma in that area, or, obligations or commitments or ultimatums or anything like that.
Right. This is strictly just feeling your emotions, feeling the moment, allowing that to take over, and not, like, just quit thinking. Quit using your head. I don't know. I mean, I've heard stories of people, like, it's like they've got it scheduled for Saturdays because they don't have to get up early. Don't do that either, because you're missing out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Like, those times can hit too. I had a big problem of, like, when I had to get up early too, and I know a lot of y'all face this. There was nights that definitely could have happened, but I was like, I got to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. Work that out in your head, folks.
Yep,
like,
go to bed earlier.
Go to bed 10 minutes earlier.
Yep.
Just kidding. Kinda, right?
Make it so weird. So smooth.
But it's just because I am 100% not uncomfortable talking about it. So it's kind of funny sometimes, just to make other people squirm a little. But
like, I'm the only one that's squirming right now.
I bet you right now there's some couples sitting beside each other a little uncomfortable about this. But hopefully that's a good thing. It's good if you get a little uncomfortable. But go to bed an hour earlier. That can be honest and open. Get the wine flowing, and let's have some conversation. Let's wrap this bad boy up a little sooner so we can get to bed earlier. Off camera, I just dropped her "that's what she said" joke. So it's getting even better for her.
We talked
here.
about this last night. We were like, we have to be serious. We can't just giggle the whole time. But it's really hard for us to do.
I think I've held my own over here. No, but I think we could talk about. I could talk about this all the time, and for a really long time. But I think that is enough for this video. Mm-hmm. We will definitely talk about this more in future videos, and it'll. We want to make sure that it's very common. To me, it's like not talking about your salary. Like, when people don't share what they are, the only reason that they don't want you to do that is so the businesses can pay people less. Yep. Same with sex. They want you to not talk about sex because when you're not talking about sex, you're not having sex. Yep. When you're not having sex, you're frustrated, and you dive your energy into something else because we all need that connection. And I think we're so blinded by that, that when we're having good sexual relations, our attention is all with the right spot, our spouse and our family. If we're not having that, then next thing we know, we're like the crazy chicken lady because that's where all of our attention's going to, or into nephews and kids, and then we start forgetting about spouses. If sex not there, you're not the most connected you can be with your spouse, and you're finding that attention somewhere else. Yep. Not saying you're cheating, but you're finding it into a hobby or something. You're
getting validation somewhere else.
Exactly. So that's something that you got to be aware of too. That's what they want to happen. That's it.
Okay.
I hope you all enjoyed this. Seriously, I hope it does spark some good conversations, and I hope it continues to challenge you in your marriage, because that is the most important thing to do. Make sure that you keep working on it and keep thinking about it.
Comment, email us, give us your thoughts, suggestions, questions. We love it. Keep it coming.
All right.
You have put us on the spot.
I mean, y'all ripped the Band-Aid off our big, so I don't know what you're going to ask next, but I'm here for it. All right, y'all, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button.
We love y'all.
Until the next one.
Bye.
Bye.